Every crime leaves a story. Some are solved, tied neatly in files, and closed forever, while others remain open. The evidence is scattered, the questions unanswered, the truth still hiding between the lines. This is Unsolved Inc., where we revisit the cases time forgot, cold cases, dark mysteries, and crimes that demand answers. Together, we'll turn the pages, follow the clues, and dive into the shadows. Welcome to Unsolved Inc. Let's begin. In February 1980, a woman who survived one of the most notorious cults in American history was found murdered in her own home, alongside her husband and her teenage daughter. Her name was Jeannie Mills. She escaped Jim Jones' People's Temple, exposed its abuses, and spent years warning the world about the dangers inside. But just 1 year after the Jonestown Massacre, she and her family were executed. No arrests, no trial, no justice. Tonight we're going to take a deep dive into the life, death, and mystery of Jeannie Mills and explore why so many believe her murder was no coincidence.
Yesterday in California, the first of dozens of caskets were put beneath the surface of the earth. They are the remains of some of those who died at the Jonestown commune in Guyana. It is part of the tragic story that even to now is not over.
Before she was Jeannie Mills, she was Deanna Myrtle. She grew up in California, raised in a typical American family. By the late 1960s, she was married to Elmer Myrtle, who would later change his name to Al Mills. Together, they were searching for purpose, for community, and for a way to raise their children with strong values. In 1969, they heard about a charismatic preacher in Redwood Valley named Jim Jones. He preached racial equality, communal living, and social justice, ideas that resonated deeply during a time of civil unrest and the Vietnam War. Deanna and Al joined the People's Temple, and at first it seemed like the perfect fit. They believed they had found a spiritual home, a place where they could make a difference in the world. But beneath the surface, something much darker was unfolding.
Inside, small pine boxes containing 45-inch steel caskets to be placed in cement crypts.
Jim Jones wasn't just a pastor, he was a master manipulator. From the start, members were told to dedicate everything to the temple. That meant their money, their time, and eventually their unquestioning loyalty. Jeannie rose quickly in the ranks. She worked closely with Jones and became one of the trusted insiders. But being close to him meant she saw the truth, the abuse, the paranoia, the staged healings, and the psychological control. Jones demanded confessions of sins, even when none existed. Members were humiliated in public catharsis sessions, and there were beatings for those who disobeyed. Jeannie later wrote in her book, 6 Years with God, about how members were manipulated into believing Jones had supernatural powers. But behind the pulpit, he was addicted to drugs, obsessed with sex, and consumed with controlling his followers.
When their daughter was beaten with a board 75 times for, quote, fraternizing with a so-called traitor, their decision was made. They had to get out. But getting out took a whole year, and they had to change their names to make a clean break. Elmer and Deanna Myrtle became Al and Jeannie Mills.
By 1974, Jeannie and Al had seen enough. They made the dangerous decision to defect, something Jones considered treason. They packed up their children, walked away from the temple, and tried to build a new life. But Jones would never forgive them. After leaving, the Myrtles changed their names to Mills. Jeannie, Al, and their kids became the Mills family. They believed it would protect them from retaliation. But Jeannie wasn't content to simply disappear. She felt a responsibility to expose Jim Jones and to help others trapped inside. She began speaking out publicly about the abuse. She founded the Human Freedom Center, an organization dedicated to helping people leave destructive cults. She became a voice for those who couldn't yet escape. And in 1979, she published 6 Years with God. The book detailed the deception, the violence, and the mind control inside the People's Temple. It was a bold move, and it made her a target. On November 18, 1978, the world was stunned by the news from Guyana. Over 900 people, including hundreds of children, were dead at the People's Temple Agricultural Project, known as Jonestown. Jim Jones had ordered his followers to drink cyanide-laced Flavor Aid after Congressman Leo Ryan was murdered on site while investigating reports of abuse. It was the largest mass death of American civilians in modern history, and Jeannie Mills had seen it coming. Her book and warnings were suddenly validated in the most horrific way possible. She had escaped, but almost every friend she had left behind in the temple was gone. But if Jonestown had ended the story, perhaps Jeannie's life would have gone on quietly. Instead, just a year later, she too would be gone. On February 26, 1980, police in Berkeley, California received a call. Inside the Mills family home, they found a scene of horror. Jeannie, her husband Al, and their 15-year-old daughter Daphene were dead, each shot execution style. Their 17-year-old son, Eddie, said he had been asleep in another room and discovered the bodies afterward. There were no signs of forced entry, no valuables missing. Whoever killed them had come with one purpose: to end their lives. The murders were professional, precise, almost like an assassination. One theory was that the People's Temple wanted revenge. Many believed the Mills were targeted by surviving loyalists of Jim Jones. Even after Jonestown, small pockets of believers still existed. Some refused to believe Jones had died and considered defectors like Jeannie traitors. The cold, execution-style killings looked like a message. Betrayal would not go unpunished. Eddie, the surviving son, was questioned. Being the only family member left alive naturally made police suspicious. Some wondered if family tensions had boiled over, but no evidence tied him to the crime, and he was never charged. Police briefly considered the idea of a burglary or random killing, but nothing was stolen. The method was too clean, too deliberate. Some speculate that Jeannie knew too much. Her activism after Jonestown may have made her enemies beyond just People's Temple loyalists. Did she uncover truths that others wanted buried? Despite these theories, the case went nowhere. The murders of Jeannie, Al, and Daphene Mills remain unsolved for several reasons. Forensic science in 1980 wasn't what it is today. Witnesses were few, and the one surviving family member couldn't provide answers. Investigators seemed reluctant to connect the murders to Jonestown, perhaps fearing more public panic. Over 40 years later, the case has gone cold. No arrests, no convictions.
But a quarter century later, police did make an arrest.
The case went cold for decades, until 2005, when investigators briefly reopened it. Detectives re-interviewed surviving members of the Mills family, urging them to share anything that might link Eddie to the crime. But the family, still firm in their belief that Eddie was innocent, said they had nothing to provide.
Police zeroed in on a suspect who appeared to have zero connection to any purported hit squad. His name was Eddie Mills. Eddie Mills had been in the home when his parents and his sister were gunned down, but he claimed not to have heard a thing. He tested positive for gunshot residue, but no weapon was ever found. Remarkably, neither Eddie nor anyone else was charged with the murders.
What sparked this renewed interest remains a mystery. No new leads had surfaced, and forensic advances hadn't shed fresh light on the evidence. As of today, Eddie lives in Japan with his wife and 2 children. Jeannie Mills survived Jim Jones. She spoke out, tried to help others, and paid with her life. To this day, no one knows who pulled the trigger or why. Was it revenge, a cover-up, or something else entirely? What we do know is this: Jeannie's story is a reminder of the dangers of blind devotion, the courage it takes to speak truth, and the haunting reality that some crimes may never be solved. What do you think? Was this a cult revenge killing or something closer to home? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The victims, the questions, the truth, still waiting to be uncovered. If you have a theory or think you know what really happened, share it in the comments below. Every idea keeps the case alive. And remember, the pages stay open, the ink stays unsolved.